In today's video, we are working on a 2007 GMC Yukon. Customer's complaint, no heat. So first thing we want to do is confirm that this is in fact the problem. Because sometimes people might say, I have no heat, but really what they have is their blower motor is not working. So there's just no air coming out the vents and the heat is working just fine. As you can hear, the air is blowing just fine. Other things you want to check is if the blend door and the mode doors are working properly, like it switches from hot to cold, from vent to windshield to floor, and so forth. I have a whole video specifically dedicated to diagnosing no heat problems. The link will be in the top right corner and in the description. On this car, everything inside checked out, so we are going to open the hood and check our coolant level. And just as I thought, coolant level is low. There is hardly anything in the expansion tank, which means our heater core is not getting any coolant. So now we need to find where it all went. Right there, we see our heater core hoses going into the firewall, but I don't see any wetness anywhere around there. There's our thermostat, there's our water pump, but everything looks nice and dry. Let's get around and take a closer look, and still there is no residue, no evidence of anything leaking. Sometimes water pumps leak intermittently, but they would have some residue forming behind the pulley, the serpentine belt would get wet, and this car is not giving me anything so far. On the radiator, everything is nice and dry as well. Same goes for the other side. Let's try to get underneath and see if we can find anything there. Everything is clean as a whistle. So what could it be? Drop your ideas in the comment section. Maybe there is a small head gasket leak at the back of the engine. I'm going to get inside and see maybe our heater core is leaking. That would usually cause the floor to get wet around the passenger floor mat. You may also see some mist coming out the vents when you turn on hot air. But in our case, there is still no evidence of a leak. Everything is nice and dry here. So let's go back. We can also check the engine oil in case coolant is getting into the engine, which would cause the oil to look like coffee with milk. And oil level would get over full because of all the coolant in it. Let's wipe the dipstick off to get an accurate reading. Put it in, take it out, and what do we see? Normal brown color oil, about a quart low. Probably could use an oil change, but nothing signifying that there is an internal coolant leak. Now, since there is nothing obvious jumping at us, let's fill up the cooling system to proper level and pressurize it. Maybe there is a head gasket leak. It could be a very small leak at the back of the engine, hardly noticeable and taking a long time for the coolant to get low. So let's see if we can find something now. After a quick run, I noticed that there was something leaking behind the right front wheel. And sure enough, there was our leak. It is hard to see from up top where it is coming from, so let's jack up the car and remove the front wheel. And there's our leak. It seems like this metal bracket for the wiring harness has been rubbing on this metal pipe and finally made a hole big enough to cause a leak. So what is this metal pipe? There is a pair of them going up and behind the receiver dryer. Let's look from up top. And now we can see this pipe goes into the T-connector for the heater core hoses. So this car must have a rear heater core, and these pipes go toward the back of the car where another heater core is placed. Now we know exactly what needs to be replaced, but trying to find these pipes for the rear heater core can be problematic, and replacing them is not going to be cheap. So for now, we are going to perform a quick fix to let the customer get back on the road until we find the parts. First, let's clear out the damaged area so there is nothing in our way. Get the wiring harness out of the bracket. Disconnect this oxygen sensor connector clip. Remove the bracket completely and move the wires out of the way. Now let's try to split the two pipes apart so they're not so close to each other by removing them from this retainer clip. Don't forget some safety glasses. Put a wedge in between the two pipes so we don't damage the second pipe. And cut the pipe right where the hole is. File the surfaces down so there is no sharp edges. And measure the pipe diameter with a wrench. 1/2 inch fits perfectly, so we can go to any local parts store and ask them for a 1/2 inch coolant hose to connect the two sides. Now let's cut an appropriate size, mark the pipe, put the hose on one side, fit a couple of hose clamps over, and put the hose on the other side of the pipe. Align the markings so that our split in the pipe is right in the middle of the hose. And tighten up the clamps. Now we can start putting everything back together. As far as that wiring harness bracket goes that caused this leak, I'm going to leave it out for now. It's probably better without it anyway. Clean the area so it doesn't look like there is still something leaking. I'm also going to spray paint the area to prevent any rust since I scratched it a little bit with my cutoff wheel. Fill it back up with coolant. Pressurize the system just to check that everything is holding still. Now we can put everything back together. Add a quart of oil since it was low. And go test drive it. Make sure the heat is working now. Check the repaired area one last time that nothing is leaking. And this car is done for now. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. If your Yukon has the same leak, leave a comment. What happened in your case? Links to all the products used in this video will be in the description. Thank you for watching, good luck, and take care.